Christ. So what I want to encourage you with as well, and this is already going on longer than I planned, is observe and correct. Remember that tool of Thin Within? It's a great tool. We've got to be willing to observe and correct. We dispassionately look at our behavior. Okay, I just made my way through half a package of Oreos and I wasn't hungry. That's dispassionately looking at what I have done. Now I've got to correct. I need to make a plan. Well, in my case, I know I need to take that package of Oreos, that half package that's left, and I need to put them in the garbage, well, outside garbage, and cover it with horse poop, or I might just go rifling back through the garbage can to get my Oreos. Seriously, true confessions. So I need to do something to plan differently, and I need to, okay, well, my feelings were hurt and by something somebody said, maybe a family member or a friend, and this is what I did to respond to it. I came home and I immediately went to the Oreos. What will I do next time this happens? And make a plan. Be proactive. Actually plan for it so that when you are coming home in the evening, you have a plan in place. No matter what your mood is, no matter how you're feeling, no matter who says what to you, you have a plan that involves honoring God with your godly choices. Okay, so I want to again mention that perhaps using my friend Barb's I Deserve a Donut app could be extremely helpful. You can go to the iTunes store and type in I Deserve a Donut and you will find her app will pop up. The link is in yesterday's comments section. I did post it there. My friend barbraveling.com has her website is now online. It wasn't yesterday until, well, day before yesterday. Anyway, so that's something that could help. Another reason why I found that I keep going back to food and going back to food in the evening is that's when I'm most likely to not be busy. And so I'm alone kind of in my emotions. Even if there's people around, I have a time in the evenings where I feel much more acutely the things that are going on in my heart. And I might need to evaluate, are there people that I need to forgive? Perhaps that's the first place to start. Or do I have an attitude of entitlement? That's another thing that can cause me to eat. And I know that's an underlying cause that may not seem obvious, but if you ask the Lord, show me, Lord, I know my heart could be deceived. What is it that's really going on? I know that I can change my habits on the outside, change up what I do in the evenings, but I'd like to get to the heart of it and figure out what it is that's really going on. So that's what I recommend. Okay, Angeli goes on to ask, how do I deal with work eating? Meaning, the food and the free snacks that are in the kitchen or a break room or staff room where people leave all kinds of snacks. Usually the stuff they don't want to have at home because they know they're going to eat it all up, so they bring it to work so that y'all will eat it. So one of the ways that you might deal with this is to have like a Tupperware, just a small salad plate that travels with you. And when you see things in the break room that you know you want, but you're not hungry for them yet, take out your little Tupperware plate, slip some, just samples of whatever it is that you might want later when you're hungry on a plate. Bring with you a baggie from home that has your name on it or some way of covering that plate, and then either refrigerate it if you're allowed to do that there, or take it back to your office or your classroom or whatever. And that way you're not being ripped off, but you're also not shoveling it in before it runs out. There's a sense of I'll never get a chance to have it again if I don't eat it right now. This will keep you from that. You can put it on your plate, wrap it up in a baggie with your name on it, put it someplace safe, and there it'll be when you are hungry. That's certainly one way to handle that. And if you do slip up, again, observe and correct. Okay, this is what happened. This is kind of the reason why, and as I walked by and I wasn't expecting it, and oh, that looked so good, and I dove in before I had a thought into that food that I wasn't hungry for. What will I do tomorrow or later today? When I'm coming towards the break room, I can send up a prayer, or I can, have a plastic plate with me, or whatever. You can plan ahead, observe and correct, but don't bang yourself over the head with a club of condemnation. That we can't hate ourselves into positive change. Okay, that's nugget of truth that Julie Falkenstein said once on, several times perhaps, on the Thin Within forums. We can't hate ourselves into positive change. We have to believe that. So condemning yourself doesn't work. Okay, so then Angeli asked one final question. How can I release the last 10 pounds? Would you talk about that? And this is tricky because who says you have 10 pounds left to lose? I mean, just who says? See, the way Thin Within works is if you're really eating 0 to 5, if you're eating between the parameters of hunger and satisfaction, and you just keep eating that way, not only will you lose any of your extra weight, but then you'll maintain it without changing anything. That is one of the most awesome things about this approach, is you don't have to change anything once, maintenance, you don't have to do that. You just keep doing what you've been doing. Eating 0 to 5, you'll land on your ideal size, and you'll stay that way. You don't even have to weigh yourself. That's just an arbitrary number anyway. In fact, the holidays would encourage us to get off the bathroom scale and to just focus on the Lord and the God-given hunger scale. And that's a really good point. If we get off the metal scale and stop standing on it and stand instead on the promises of God. I've heard Judy Halliday say this a number of times. Stand instead on the promises of God and trust that He's made our bodies reliable to physical hunger and physical satisfaction are reliable ways of getting to my ideal body weight and maintaining it, then that is going to take care of itself. I don't need to worry about the number that I land on. And, you know, here's a few things that you might want to do as you're thinking about this last 10 pounds or last 5 pounds. I knew somebody who was concerned about 4 pounds. For all the years I knew her, it was 4 pounds that upset her. 4 pounds. Wow. I can't relate. Now, anyway, but one of the things you might want to do is evaluate if your view of that number that you want to be is based on yesteryear. You know, like if when you were 23 you weighed 105 pounds or were a size 2 or whatever, and now you're 30 and you've had 2 babies. Well, maybe if you're eating a faithful 0 to 5, maybe this is where you're supposed to be. Our bodies change with childbirth and delivery and nursing and all kinds. Sometimes they change in ways that delight us and please us, and other times they change. I kind of joke about how I'm a National Geographic woman with, well, never mind, we won't go there right now. Anyway, and then ask God if a former dieting mentality is affecting you and your satisfaction and contentment with the size that you are. If you're faithfully eating 0 to 5, maybe you're not supposed to be any thinner than this. Maybe this is where you're going to be, and this will be where you can live comfortably and not obsess and get off the scale. That's probably what you want to do. Many of us will probably end up settling. Even after we've lost weight with Thin Within, we might end up settling a little bit higher than we expected. And again, that's one reason why the holidays encourage us to stay off the bathroom scale. Where are you landing? It's going to be 0 to 5 is going to take you to your natural God-given size and maintain it. The second big thing you can do is really evaluate your eating. And again, you need to do this prayerfully. I call this refining my hunger numbers, and I think that's what Judy calls it in the book as well. And just pray, Lord, I know my heart can be deceived. I love food, and I know that that's okay, but I also know I still have issues with wanting to eat more than I need. Could you show me if there are places where I'm not being entirely honest about hunger and satisfaction? And are there choices I need to make if I really want to be as healthy as you are calling me to be? Okay, as you prayerfully consider this, ask yourself if you're eating 0 to 5 as an entitlement. There's a big difference. Or if it's a godly boundary that you're relishing stopping inside of that 5. Is it, oh, surely I get to eat more than just this little amount before I get to a 5, and you push and you push and eat a little bit more and eat a little bit more until you get right to the brink of being too full? Is that, that's kind of an entitlement mentality. We want to steer clear of that. And so sometimes we don't want to push so far that we're just shy of a 6. We want to rejoice that, I like looking at it this way. Am I hungry? Am I not hungry? And that, for me, simplifies it a whole lot. Doesn't take much food. I eat several times a day, though. A lot of people eat more than I do, and they eat twice a day, perhaps. In my case, I find what works for me. And every time food goes into my mouth, I call that a meal. There's no such thing as a snack and thin within. It all matters. And so, well, that's how I look at it. But the bottom line is, again, I want to mention observation and correction. So even as you look at these two things that I mentioned, evaluating why you want to be a lower weight than you are if you're eating faithfully 0 to 5, and let's say you're still obsessed with that, extend grace to yourself. How long did it take you to become obsessed with your weight? It probably took a lifetime, 20, 25, 30 years. That obsession or that struggle to let go of that special number isn't going to happen overnight. You probably are going to need to let God renew your mind. Renew your mind. And again, get Barb Raveling's I Deserve a Donut iPhone, iPad, iPod Touch app. Really, it is amazing. And I do review that app at my other website. Anyway, I have refined my hunger numbers over the years, and sometimes I find I need to do it again. It's, lately, I noticed that my hunger numbers had slipped. I was eating more than I needed, but calling it 5. It's like, wait a minute, when it was 5 before, I was eating less. And kind of evaluating it. So I just encourage you to prayerfully ask God to show you, and that's going to help a lot. When you faithfully eat 0 to 5, you're going to land on the number, the size, get off the scale. You're going to land on the size that God intends for you to be, and you'll maintain it. It's wonderful.